Hello, welcome to Revolution Now. I'm Rudolph. In this video, I'm going to be continuing my reading of the Quran, all the green parts that can be used to convince somebody to commit an act of jihad against somebody who's not of the Islamic faith. But before I get into that, I'd like to address something that is nagging me and will nag me forever, and this is the whole reason I'm actually making these videos, is Islamic apologists and people who think that Islam can change. Recently I've been watching videos from Prager University, which is great. I agree with almost all their videos, at least 96%, and do not take my endorsement of them as them endorsing me. Most likely they probably would not do so. I, on the other hand, would probably be considered an extremist my side versus them being more middle of the road. And there's a reason for this. Many people believe if they're middle of the road or they listen to the more moderate Muslims, which they do have moderate Muslims on their channel trying to explain religious extremism and trying to say that it's all down to anti-Semitism and ingrained things that have been taught through a generation, and how many Muslims can be shocked that such a thing can still take place. Anytime somebody tells you that in a nice, light context or talks about reform in Islam, is lying to you. It doesn't matter how nice they are. It doesn't matter how much on your side you believe them to be. It is an act of jihad that they are doing. They're pretending to be the more moderate variety so that you believe that it is not all Islam. They tell you that there are ways of educating more Muslims so that they do not join extremist groups, where if the religious leaders would not put up on a pedestal acts of violence against the West, that their recruitment would fall off somehow. Totally ignoring the fact that the reason why a religious person can get up on a minaret or in front of people on a podium and say that an act of violence was justified is because Allah said it. There's no changing. I can't stipulate this enough. There is no changing the word of God, especially in Islam. All your other monotheistic religions, you could try and say they're, again, written by man. This is written by God. It can't be wrong. It unmakes all religions and all of existence if that were to be the case. Just not going to happen. And if you remember all the things that I've been reading to you thus far, does any of it seem anti-Semitic to you? Does it seem like you need anything else to prove something is anti-Semitic? Do you think it's a bunch of religious parents just teaching their kids, nah, Jews are bad because I don't like Jews? Zehayel. No, Allah doesn't like Jews. He told you why. They broke the covenant multiple times over. They elicit money through their illegal practices and things that are haram and not given by God. They ignore the covenant of God many times over. There was also another example in one of their videos where the video on what's holding the Muslim world back, where in the beginning they cite the context that during a karate competition where an Israeli beat a Muslim, I forgot which country he was from, but he was from an actual Muslim country, and it was taking place like in Egypt or something like that. At the end of the competition, after he got defeated, he refused to shake the Israeli's hand, thus eliciting boos from the crowd. The video then continues to go into explaining why this may be, and explaining how the anti-Semitism has actually hurt the Middle East in intellectual property and manpower and everything else. What happens when you expel a group of people and you don't have an inclusionary nature? Of course, you are removing whatever skills and abilities that group of people has from your culture. Then they went to say how that happened in Germany, and they could have had the atomic bomb before anybody else had they not expelled or sent into exile people like Albert Einstein and other scientists, and how Russia, during their expulsion of Jews, has also seen a lot of collapse in their economy and many of the other things that would happen if you expel a certain group of people who are very beneficial to your society or have proven to be beneficial to your society. He didn't shake the Israeli's hand because of some, oh, I'm going to be a nationalist, you know, like, oh no, the Israelis are bad. No, he didn't shake his hand because he's a good Muslim. A good Muslim would never compare, make friends with, or show any sort of nicety towards the dogs of Jews, and Christians. I've been reading this to you this whole time. Do you think that he didn't shake the Israelis' hand because it just didn't seem cool, or maybe his parents made him an anti-Semite? Or did he not shake the Israelis' hand because of everything else I just read you? It's ingrained into a part of his faith. When he sees the Israeli, what he's looking at is somebody who broke the covenant with God. Remember, most Muslims can be very devout in their faith. It's part of what they kind of have to do to be Muslim, is to be mostly devout. He didn't do so because God hates Jews, and God will always hate Jews. There's no reforming that. So my message to the people at Prager University: instead of having Muslims come up and make videos and you write a nice script and making your videos do look really good, and putting it into the best light, how about the leaders of your university pick this up, and then the next time you have one of your Muslim compatriots try and make a video expressing why Islamic extremism can't happen or can be removed or stuff like that, ask them how we change this. Because there was even another part of one of the videos, the video, why do people become Islamic extremists, where two parents were sitting at a table, and right after an assassination in Pakistan, and by the way, the person in the video who's given the presentation is a Muslim. He said he went to Pakistan to go figure out that it wasn't poverty and a lack of education that breed extremism, because it's mostly middle class, well-fed people who are educated who become Muslim extremists, because they read. They read well, and then they go blow themselves up or go kill a bunch of people. Osama bin Laden came from one of the richest families in Saudi Arabia. So did many of his lieutenants. These are not dumb, uneducated, poor people. They could live any type of life. But this family seemed shocked that their son said the other person who just got assassinated should have died. It was a good death because that person spoke for religious minorities. Why were they shocked? I actually don't believe that they were shocked. I believe, well, if they were shocked, I think that they were bad Muslims. They didn't read the Quran. They didn't follow the tenets of Muhammad and Islam. Had they done so, they would have totally agreed with what their son said, because Allah had said it too. Their son, and here's the problem. That's a problem that happened in Pakistan, and they're so shocked it happened. As long as Islam exists in its entirety, throughout now and to the end of history, beginning from 1610 when Muhammad decided to come up with this psychopathic book, from now till the end of time, as long as this is here, somebody, no matter how moderate you are raised, will pick it up, will read it, and then go, I'm going to do the right thing. Allahu Akbar. I'm going to be a martyr. And some priest somewhere, it's not a priest, it's a matawa, some matawa somewhere is going to get up on a minaret and be like, that guy did it. Yeah. And the reason why the crowd can't go, fuck you, dude, what the hell was that about? That's not right, is because he's just going to look down and be like, ha, he did do it. And everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, that's what was written. He did do it. Okay? So before you go around following moderate Muslims and thinking about reform and all this kind of stuff, I don't make these videos. I don't do what I do. I don't want any money from YouTube. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm well off. My wife's well off. We're both high earners. There's no reason for me to do this other than to try and get you to believe in reality. It's just reality. God wrote this, and this is what he said, and you can't change it. If you change it, again, all things come to an end. Now we're talking religion here. Now some of you have converted in and out of your religions. You were born a Christian, now you're a Wiccan, or whatever the fucking case may be. But that's not the case with Islam. People who leave Islam get beheaded. There's not really a way for them out. They get ostracized by the whole entire community. Then that's the small version of it. And then on the other hand, to not follow it 100% unmakes the ability for it to exist. You have to believe that God is infallible, and this has to be a deep-seated thought because we're talking about what happens after you die, something nobody can really know. People hold these beliefs for a fear of death, for a fear of what may come after, for the thought of all this it has to mean something, doesn't it? This is what's telling me what it means, so I have to go with that. Like, I feel it in my heart. I know it has to be out there. I strive, I search for it, and this is the only guide I have. You're not gonna fucking convince somebody that that's not the case. No amount of talking you do is gonna change them from believing in an afterlife they so desperately need, because this life not be that good to them. Okay. Now that I've put us on a positive note, best foot forward, we're going to get right into number 9. Repentance. The one that they quote all the time as being the most psychopathic or hate-filled and whatnot, but again, I'm still not even halfway through the book, by the way. I'm getting there, but we're not even halfway there. So, you don't even know the half of it. Number 1. Oh, by the way, again, as we start the chapter, all starts must have hate speech in them. You can't get started in Islam without some hate speech. You can't even put it in the middle of the fucking chapter. Gotta be the first thing you say. Right, Muhammad? Immunity is granted to those idolaters by God and his apostle with whom you have a treaty. So if you have a treaty, they have a little bit of immunity. They can move about for 4 months freely in the land. There's even a time. But should know they cannot escape the law of God, and that God can put the unbelievers to shame. A general proclamation is made this day of a greater pilgrimage on the part of God and his apostle, that God is not bound by the contract to idolaters, nor to his apostle. It is therefore better for you to repent. If you do not remember, they cannot elude the grip of God. So announce to those who deny the truth the news of painful punishment. Now, there is again the time, and this has to do with war. Pink is war. I did not highlight it in green. It's only pink. I made a little green mark, but I'm not going to read it. But again, war, jihad, kind of same thing. Just going to skip it though, because we have a lot to get through. I'm kind of fucked up with this. If an idolater seeks protection, blah, 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 how can they be trusted? If they prevail against you, they will neither observe pacts nor good faith with you. If you allow them any foothold, don't trust that they have your intentions at heart. Christians and Jews and idolaters and pagans, they have nothing good for you. They flatter you with their tongues, but their hearts are averse to you, for most of them are iniquitous. There's that fucking word again. They barter away the words of God for petty price and obstruct others from his path. How evil indeed are the things that they do. They have no regard for kinship or treaties with believers, for they are transgressors. But if they repent and are firm in devotion and pay the zakat, then they are your brothers in faith. We explain our commands indistinctly for those who understand. If they break their pledge after giving their word and revile your faith, fight these specimens of faithlessness, for surely their oaths have no sanctity. They may haply desist. Will you not fight those who broke their pledge and plotted to banish the apostle? And were you the first to attack? Are you afraid of them? If you are believers, you should fear God more. Fight them so that God may punish them at your hands and put them to shame, and help you against them, and heal the wounds of the hearts of believers, and remove the anger from their breasts, for God turns to whomsoever desires. God is all-knowing and all-wise. Do you think you will get away before God knows who among you fought and who did not take anyone but God? His apostle and the faithful as their friends? God is cognizant of all that you do. Those who accept the faith and left their homes and fought in the way of God, by the way, you remember, I told you 9 is what they use most often. But if you go back through the past videos, and since I've done a lot of these day in, day out and whatnot, That sentence, God loves those who fight versus those who don't fight, has been said before, has it not? A few times over. It is a regular teaching. It's not one chapter. You can't just go, oh, it's that one part. It's throughout. It's a core fucking belief. Again, that's how somebody can get up and say that an act of violence was okay and the whole crowd can't fucking stone him to death. It won't happen. He has the actual word of God backing him. The crowd will just submit to that. Because to not do so unmakes all existence. The Lord announces to them news of his mercy, acceptance, and gardens of everlasting bliss, which they will enjoy forever. Indeed, God has greater rewards for him. O you, the believer, do not hold your fathers and brothers as friends, if they hold disbelief more dear than faith. And those of you who do so are iniquitous. That's that fucking word. Iniquitous. Dyslexia. I kick your ass. Iniquitous. What the fuck was I pronouncing it the other way before? God damn, I'm an idiot. You tell them, if your fathers and sons, your brothers and wives and families and wealth, or the business you fear may fail, and the mansions that you love are dearer to you than God his apostle, and struggle in his cause, then wait until God command arise, for God does not show transgressors the way. A little hot. 26. Then God sent down a sense of tranquility, and his apostle and the faithful, and sent down troops invisible to punish the infidels. This is the recompense of those who do not believe. O believers, the idolaters are unclean, so they should not approach the holy mosque after this year, in case you fear ignorance from the stoppage of business with them. Then God will enrich you and his bounty if he will, for God is all-knowing and all-wise. Fight those people of the book who do not believe in the day in God and the last day, who do not prohibit what God and his apostle have forbidden, nor accept divine law until they all pay the protective tax in submission. There's a few reasons why this chapter is quoted. What it's basically saying is you have to fight all people who do not believe. All people who do not follow what you follow. Now, this is why Sharia law is important, because Sharia law is all part of that. Sharia law is also handed down by God. This comes to where women have to dress modestly, which is why they get raped and beat up in places like Germany and England and stuff when they go into the wrong neighborhood, not dressed the appropriate way, because they have the ability and the moral backing and the community so that they can beat the fuck out of a girl for not dressing the right way in their community. And no Muslim's going to turn that dude in or group in who mass rape her. That's not going to happen. If you think you're going to get some sort of social justice and that they're going to come together and that there's some sort of moral character that's going to shine through and people are going to stop violence against you because you're a special snowflake and violence is wrong, and if you've ever been on the other end of violence, you would know what I'm talking about, but most of you haven't, so you really don't know what true violence is when you know that you're about to die or fear death at the hands of a mob that's just going to beat you to death, which is one of the most horrible ways you could die because it's so slow and because you know you're about to die, and to see anger on people's faces as they smash you into the ground, people who don't even know you. But I guess you're kind of into that because you like Antifa and they like that kind of shit too. Anyway, the Jews say Urza is the Son of God. That's Jesus. The Christians say Christ is the Son of God. But they were the same. Anyway, that is what they say with their tongues, following assertions made by unbelievers before them. May they be damned by God. How perverse are they? Again, I know I keep stopping. I'm page 3 of this, whatever. God is literally saying Christians and Jews directly Not idolaters, not unbelievers, not this collective. Christians and Jews, fucking dogs. And you think you're going to have a negotiation of peace with them. You think somehow Israel's wrong and they got to just sit down at the table and give back a little bit more land. And by the way, there was no such thing as a Palestinian state. In case you don't know that bit of history, it was part of Jordan. Palestine never existed. So that's a bunch of crap to have a Palestinian state. But God has made mention multiple times through his book that the Christians and Jews are not to be trusted. What the fuck are you doing wanting them to come over here? God said not to trust you. And he damned you, by the way. May they be damned by God. How perverse they are, you fucking pervert. They consider their rabbis and monks and the Christ, son of Mary, to be gods apart from God, even though they had been enjoined to worship only one God, for there is no God but he. Too holy is he for what they ascribe him. They wish to extinguish the light of God by uttering blasphemies. But God will not have it so, for he will perfect his light, however the unbelievers be averse. It is he who has sent his messenger with guidance and the truth faith, in order to make it superior to other beliefs, other systems of belief, even though the idolaters may not like it. Superior to other systems of belief. Coexistence. Nice sticker. By the way, when you put that coexist sticker and you included a little Muslim crescent, did you know about that line? Did you? No, I didn't actually. Oh, believers, many rabbis and priests, again, directly at you. Many rabbis and priests devour their possessions of others wrongfully and keep men away from the path of God to those who accumulate gold and silver and do not spend in the way of God, announce the news of painful punishment. Now again, they're not wrong, okay? There's certain things that Christians do, Jews too, maybe, I'm not sure. Giant golden crosses, the Vatican in general, the gold rings on the Pope's hand, his giant staff. Islam doesn't have any of those things for their religious leaders. Yes, they live in palaces and often have a caliphate and live a nice luxury, but their type of luxury is more towards nice cushions, plenty of honey, water, food in an abundance, and many of them who do share, especially if you're a sheikh and you have a command over certain regions, people will come to you for either advice or financial aid so that they can either start a business or do something or help their family, and the sheikh, upon his generosity as commanded by his Islamic faith, should help those less fortunate than he is. Nothing you Christians or Jews are going to say is going to remove the vision they have of your religion when you have religious figures having any sort of decency of life that is bigger than the normal person. Your mega churches are a blaspheme against God, and that's how they see it. You are perverse in this belief. The Pope and his giant golden staff and his nice car and the entire Vatican built for like one dude in like their congregation of people that hang out in there, perverse in faith. All that could be spent to help the poor, and this is the Muslim view of it. It's not entirely wrong, I can't say. I myself am not a Christian. I kind of view it in that way too. It's kind of like, well, if you believe in helping the poor, what's with all this kind of stuff? And if you do believe in not having idol worship, the Muslims are right there too, which is also, again, why I'm not a Christian. This is on a personal note. I'm about to offend everybody else watching these videos, and you might not watch the rest of them. But if you truly believe in no idol worship, the cross is an idol. Any depiction of Mary or Jesus is an idol. You don't know what he looked like. There's no description of it. Any depiction is idol worship. When you have the different saints and different pictures and you pray to them, that's idol worship. When you take away any sort of prayer that is not directly to God, and by the way, Jesus said that he is God, meaning there is no separation. You shouldn't be worshiping a separate Jesus figure according to the tenets of your own faith. You should give all homage to God as prescribed by your faith. Meaning no pictures, no idols, no rosaries. None of that stuff actually has a place in your faith. And yet this all has been created throughout time, and people touching their faith with their human hands and creating something out of what was not supposed to be there. Jesus never mentioned any of that stuff. So the Muslims do view it that way too. There's nothing you could say to stop them from having that view, because you are actually wrong by your own faith. You just, again, choose to ignore reality, which that's reality. They believe that they're living in reality and that you're ignorant of it. How are you going to have a conversation with somebody like that? How are you going to express to them how you're right? You're an idolater. So, you're a sinner and you're going to hell. Before you don't watch the rest of my videos and think I'm an asshole, it's in the Bible too. And probably the Torah. Hence the golden calf, and anything that you're looking at that's not just directly up into a thing that's not supposed to have a symbol is idol worship. And that's what the Muslims think. On the day we shall heat up their gold on the fire of hell and brand their foreheads, sides and backs, and say to them, it is this you stored up for yourselves, so now taste what you had stored. So do not exceed yourselves during them, but fight the idolaters to the end, as they fight you in like manner. And remember, God is for those who preserve themselves from evil and do the right. I'm going to try and read this as quick as possible just so I can get through it. 37. Intercalculating a month is adding to unbelief. The unbelievers are misguided by this, for they take on the same month to be sacred one year and sacrilegious the next, thus making the number of months sanctified by God accord with theirs, in order to make what God has provided lawful. Attractive seem to them their evil deeds, but God does not show the unbelievers the way. God actually doesn't convert unbelievers. He doesn't give a fuck. You can kill them. What has happened to you, O believers, that when you are asked to set out in the cause of God, your feet began to drag? Do you feel the life of the world so pleasing that you forgot the life to come? Kill yourself so you could go to life to come. This one sucks. Yet the profit of the life, oh, and by the way, God is so perfect and so great in what he can give you in the afterlife, even if you think you got it good here, not even close. You're falsely believing something. Do you find yet the profit of this life, of this world, is but mirage, as compared to the life to come. Unless you go out to strive, God will inflict grievous punishment on you and bring other people in your place, and you will not be able to harm him in the least, for God has the power over all things. If you do not help the prophet, remember, God had helped him when the infidels had forced him to leave, and he was one of two. When both of them were in the cave, he said to his companion, do not grieve, for God is with us. Then God sent divine peace on him and invisible armies for his help, and made the unbelievers' purpose abject. Most exalted is God's word, for God is almighty and all-wise. O believers, go in the cause of God, whether light or heavy, and strive in the service of God, wealth and soul. This is better for you, if you understand. O prophet, but the gain been close at hand, and easy the journey, they would surely have followed you. But hard was the journey and long the going, even when they swear by God and say, if we had the strength, we would surely have gone out with you. They are ruining themselves, for God is aware they lie. May God forgive you. Why did you allow them to stay behind, without ascertaining who spoke the truth and who were the liars? Those who believe in God and the last day do not ask your leave to be excused from fighting wealth and soul in the cause of God, for God knows the pious and devout. The pious and devout, according to this, is the people who fight wealth and soul, not the people who pray all the time. So if you're thinking of segmenting out certain sections and be like, oh no, Islam is only for the pious and the whatnot, the translation of that in Islam is those who actually go on fight, because they are, again, here, and everybody else who hasn't done that, somewhere else. They're Muslim, but they're not there. And there are levels of paradise. If you die here, all things to you. If you die in here as a Muslim, you get there, But maybe you live in the suburbia or the middle class of paradise, while the ones who died a martyr have huge mansions of gold, young boys and girls of prepubescent age that they could bang to their heart's content, who are always going to be virgins no matter how many times they rape them. Only they ask for leave who do not believe in God in the last day, whose hearts are full of doubt, and doubting they waver between gain and loss. If they intended to go out to fight, they would surely have made preparations, but God did not like their setting forth, and they were held back and told, "Stay at home with those who stay behind." Had they gone out with you, they would have been a hindrance and let loose confusion among you to create discord. For there are some in your midst who spy for them, but God knows who are wicked. They had tried to create disorder before and intrigued against you, but truth came out in the end, and God will prevailed, even though they did not like it. And many one there is among them who say, "Allow me to stay back at home and put me not on trial." Surely they had put themselves on trial already, and hell will enclose the unbelievers from all sides. If good comes your way, they are vexed. But if calamity befalls you, they say, "We had taken precautions in advance, and please turn away." Tell them, nothing can befall us except what God decrees. Our protector is He, and in God should the faithful place their rest. Now, nothing can befall us except what God decrees. Across the entire Middle East, you'll hear the word Insha Allah, which means God willing, or Insha Allah, if you were to say the longer version of it. Basically means God willing. And they use it for everything. Hey, you know the report on Monday? Insha Allah. I guess I'll get that report Monday. Hey, are we going to get there safely? I'm going to buckle up. You're driving like a fucking psychopath. Insha Allah. Everything, good or bad, is given by God. There's not a, only good or only bad. They just kind of have this acceptance of what is to come, which almost kind of like the Buddhist faith breeds an acceptance of crap that can happen under such a guideline, but it also gives them the ability to be really fucking lazy with almost everything that they do, which is why business in the Middle East is very hard to do, because even people of higher levels will give you an inshallah. In the United States and in many Western cultures, I need that done by Monday. If it's not done by Monday, you're potentially fired because it's that big of an important. That doesn't happen in the Middle East. Hardly anybody gets fired for that kind of thing. Things are a little bit slower. It's more like what people believe the South to be, even though that's not necessarily the case. It is the case in the Caribbean, though. If you've ever been there, they move at that slower pace. The whole Middle East is like that. And they do take a break often from 12 to 4 in the afternoon, where they go take a nap and then work from 4 to 8, maybe, if they're not an Arab Muslim. Arab Muslims have a tendency not to go back to work because you can't get them fired, because the nationalization that has to take place of the whole Middle East to remove jobs from expats that went over there and lived for more than a decade, taking their money and sending it back home, which they don't like. Our protector is He, and in God should the faithful place their trust. Say, are you waiting for anything else but one of two things for us, victory or martyrdom? It's right there. Yet what they are waiting for is you and the punishment of God, direct or through us. So keep waiting. We are waiting with you. 53. Tell them, you may spend in the way of God, whether willing or in reluctance. It will not be accepted from you, for you are reprobates. Reprobates? Just when I get one word out of the way, they throw another one in and just figure out how to say this one. Nothing prevents the acceptance of what they send except for what they do not believe in God and His apostle and come to worship but languidly, and spend only grudgingly. Do not marvel in their wealth and children. God intends to punish them through these in the world, and their souls will depart in a state of disbelief. They swear by God they are with you, though in fact they are not. They are only a frightened lot. If they find a place of shelter or a cave or a hole to hide in, they will turn to it. There are some among them who blame you, or part of partiality. Partiality. and distributing the offerings made in the name of God. In case they receive some of these, they are pleased. If not, they are incensed. They should rather have been pleased with what God and his prophet had given them and said, God is sufficient for us. He will give of us his lagress as will his apostle. We supplicate no one but God. Supplicate. 61. There are some of them who talk ill of the prophet by saying he listens to everyone. Tell them he listens for your good, and trust in God and trust the faithful. And he is blessing for those who believe. For those who offend the apostle God, there is painful punishment. For those who offend the apostle God, there is painful punishment. Do not criticize Muhammad. You're going to get your head chopped off. And that's a justification for it. So when you draw a picture of Muhammad, the reason why the whole Middle East doesn't come up in an uproar because you drew a cartoon and they decided to kill a bunch of you, is because God said that would happen. It's part of the faith. That's why I can't explain it enough. I keep repeating myself. I know I sound like a parrot, but it's why there's no large uprising from this group here when violence takes place there. Under normal circumstances between me and you and thinking kind-natured people, we don't want other people to die for so stupid of a reason just because they disagree with somebody else. That would be the most alien thing to us, wouldn't it? It's alien to me. It might be alien to you. It's not alien here. It's a religion. That's why they're not going. That's why your belief that, hey, can't we all just get along? Not translating over there. It can't happen, actually. 63. Have they not realized that anyone who opposes God and his prophet will abide in hell forever, and that is the worst disgrace? The hypocrites fear lest a Sura is revealed concerning them, exposing them for what is in their hearts. Say to them, mock as much as you like. God will certainly expose what you dread. But if you ask them, they will say, we are only gossiping and jesting. A joke, jokes. You ask them, were you jesting with God, his revelations, and his messenger? Do not make excuses. You turned unbelievers after having come to faith. If we pardon a section of you for being frivolous, we shall punish the other for being guilty of deliberate sin. The hypocrites are the same, whether they are men or women. The one of them being of the other, they encourage what is bad and dissuade from the good, and tighten their purses when it comes to spending in the way of God. Of God they are oblivious. Now, they encourage what is bad and dissuade what is good, and tighten their purses when it comes to the spending in the way of God. This could be the case for charity. I've marked it green because when they do spend it, a lot of times those funds go to commit jihad. After all, the whole thing's about fighting in the way of God. So if we were actually only to take out that section and decide to try and believe in it or make a case of it, you could say it thusly. Where the fuck was I? The hypocrites are the same, whether men or women. The one being of the other, they encourage only bad, and dissuade good is not good, and tighten no money when it comes to spending in for God. Why you not give for charity? God has said you give for charity, you must give for charity. It is said here in number 9. You say number 9 is bad, but it talks of charity. I could take out that little section and make it seem some shit. And that's what often people do. Anytime you've seen them quoting anything, which they don't, in case you ever watch them get on TV after an attack, you notice that they don't quote a verse from the Quran and go, oh, by the way, that's wrong because of this. It's very difficult to do that because somebody like me could come along who actually has it all highlighted perfectly, and I could see where you got whatever you think you got, and very quickly, visually, with colors, see around it and be like, it doesn't mean what you're saying it means. That's why they don't quote this very often. They don't quote their holy book. Christians, you notice, they quote their holy book all the time. John 3:16 or this or that or whatnot. Muslims don't quote their holy book because to quote it would enlighten you as to what it actually says. And nobody really wants that if Islam is to succeed. God has reserved for hypocrites, whether men or women, and for unbelievers, the fire of hell. where they will abide forever. This is sufficient for them. They have God's condemnation and lasting torment. Like those before you who were greater in strength, had more wealth and children than you, who enjoyed their lot in this world, as you have enjoyed their share like them, you indulge in idle talk, and they had indulged in vain discourse, yet nothing of what they did remains in the world or will remain next, and they are the losers. Has not the account of those before them come to them, of the people of Noah and Ad and Thamad, of Abraham and Midian, and all of the inhabitants that were destroyed? Their apostle had come to them with clear proofs, and God did not surely wrong them. They wronged themselves, those Jews. Strive, O prophet, against the unbelievers and the hypocrites, and deal with them firmly. Not coexistingly, but firmly. And as you recall, how is firm? Well, chopping off the head of an unbeliever, pretty firm. Their final abode is hell, and what a wretched destination. They swear by God, we never said this, but they surely said the words disbelieving the truth, and then they turned unbelievers after having come to the faith, and designed what they could not accomplish. They did it out of vengeance. So if they repent, it is better for them. If they turn away, then God would afflict them with painful punishment in this world and in the next, and none will they have of the face of the earth to protect them or help them. Some of them have made a covenant with God. If you give us your bounty, we shall give alms and be upright. But when he gave them of his bounty, they became greedy and then turned away. As a consequence of breaking their promise made to God and telling lies, he filled their hearts with hypocrisy, which will last till the day they come before him. Till the day they die, they will be hypocrites. Who's going to be hypocrites? The Jews. Have they not realized that God knows the secrets of their confidential talk, and that God has the knowledge of the unknown things? They who define those of the believers who give alms willingly, and deride those who have nothing besides what they earn by their labor to give in charity, will be derided by God and will suffer painful punishment. Whether you plead forgiveness for them or not, God will not forgive them, even though you plead 70 times, for they disbelieved in God and his apostle, and God does not show transgressors the way. Doesn't matter what you do, the Jews, the Christians, the idolaters, the pagans, the Wiccans, the Luciferians, anybody, atheists, you don't even need a religion. You have to have this religion, or God damned you to hell. And all Muslims believe this. You are pre-damned without Savior. There's nothing that can be done to save you. And as we've seen previously, they're not even commended to try and convert you because God has already hardened your heart. There's almost no way for them to convert you. So, if there's no way to convert you, God doesn't want you, and they're allowed to kill you, what do you think happens? Well, there's only actually one thing to happen. There's really no choices left. Those who were left behind rejoiced, and they stayed at home against the wishes of God's apostle, being adverse to fighting in the way of God and their wealth and their lives, and said, do not go into this heat. Tell them, the heat of hell is far more intense. If only they had cared to instruct themselves, so let them laugh a little, for weep they will more, as retribution for what they have done. If you come back to them by the grace of God, and they seek your permission to go to fight, you should tell them, you will never go out nor fight the enemy with me anymore. You preferred to stay back on the first occasion, to stay home with those who stay behind. Do not invoke blessings of any of them who die, nor stand in prayer at their graves, for they disbelieved in God and his prophet, and died transgressors. If the call comes out to fight in the way of God from a caliphate, from a leader of ISIS, from Al-Qaeda, and he says, fight the infidels, fight them with all your might, go out and kill for the way of Islam and God and Allah, and you don't, all it takes is one time for you to not go out, the first time actually, you too are going to hell, even as a Muslim. You are all commended to fight. That's why they're all commended to fight. There's not a way out of that. And there's not a way of changing that either. They won't even go to your grave if you die and you're a Muslim and you didn't go out and fight, according to Allah, because you died a disbeliever. Somehow believer to disbeliever, And let not their wealth and their children astonish you. God wishes to punish men through these in this world, and their souls will depart in a state of disbelief. Whenever a surah is revealed which says, believe in God and fight along with his prophet, the well-to-do among them will ask for leave and stay at home and say, leave us for those who are left behind. They prefer to be with the women who are allowed to stay at home during war, and their hearts are sealed, so they fail to understand. But the prophet and those who have embraced the faith with him and have fought wealth and soul in the way of God are blessed and will be successful. God has provisioned them of gardens with streams, of running water where they will abide forever. This will be their supreme triumph. Some Arabs of the desert came with ready excuses, asking for leave to stay behind. But those who had lied to God and his prophet stayed at home doing nothing. So the punishment of those who disbelieve among them will be painful. Blame will lie on those who are rich, yet ask your leave to stay behind. They prefer to stay with women who stay at home, and God seals their hearts so they do not understand, even amongst Muslims. Which is why the more fanatical can still view the less fanatical as just somebody you can kill. God already sealed their hearts. There is only one true path for Islam. Fighting in the way of God. That is the only true path. Muhammad did it. Muhammad is the example all true Muslims must follow. He is the embodiment of perfection. Anytime they say the word Muhammad, they always say, and peace be upon him, or some shit like that. Because he is the highest of all is Muslims. So when he fucks a prepubescent child, that's an example you could follow. And the fact that he fought jihad most of his life and commanded armies to do so. That is the height of Islam. That is the height of what you should strive to be. Anybody trying to do less is a disbeliever who's doing a disservice to God and is not following the right and true path of Muhammad and any of the apostles or Allah. It's very clear. They will beg you in the name of God on your return to forgive them, but you keep away from them. They are scum. Their abode is hell, requital for what they had done. They will plead on an oath that you accept them. Even if you accept them, remember, God does not accept them. People who are disobedient, even Muslims who are disobedient, God does not accept them. It just is. The village Arabs are more obstinate in belief and hypocrisy and previous to ordinances. 101. Some of the Arabs of the desert around you are hypocrites, and some of the people of Medina are stubborn in hypocrisy. You are not aware of them. We know them, and we will punish them twice, and they will be sent to a harrowing doom. There are those who built a mosque on opposition and disbelief, and to cause rifts among the faithful, and to serve as an outpost for those who have warred against God and his apostle before this. Yet they will surely swear, we had only meant well, but God is witness that they are liars. God has verily brought the souls and possessions of the faithful in exchange for the promise of paradise. They fight in the cause of God and kill and are killed. This is the promise incumbent on him. As in the Torah, so the gospel and the Quran. This is when they link all three together in their own faith. And who is more true to his promise than God? So he rejoice at the bargain that they have made with him. For this is the triumph will be supreme. It is not worthy of the prophet and those who believe to seek forgiveness for those who are idolaters, even though they may be relatives after they have come to know and are destined for hell. Your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, whatever. If you're an unbeliever, you're going to hell. There's no saving you. O believers, do not stray from the path of God and be with those who are truthful. O believers, do not stray from the path of God and be with those who are truthful. Well, it's not good English, so probably makes sense in Arabic. It is not worthy of the people of Medina and the Arabs of the desert around them to abandon the prophet of God and to care more for themselves than for him. And there is no hardship or thirst or hunger that they know in the service of God, and no place that they walk on, where walking provokes the unbelievers, and no harm they receive from the enemy, but is put down as a good deed in their favor. Surely God does not let the recompense of those who do good go to waste. There is not a sum large or small that they can spend, not a piece of land that they can transverse in the service of God, which is not put down in their favor, so that God could reward them for what they had done. It is not possible for all believers to go out and fight, so a part of each section of the population should go to fight, in order that the others may acquire understanding of law and divinity, and ward their companions to return, so that they may take heed for themselves. O believers, fight the unbelievers around you, and let them realize that you are firm. Remember, God is with those who are pious and obedient to him. Again, we're equating pious and obedience with fighting. When a sermon is revealed, some of them remark, "Whose faith among you has it increased?" It does not increase the faith of those who believe, and they rejoice, but it adds disbelief to disbelief. For those whose hearts are filled with doubt, and they die disbelieving, do not know that they are tried every year once or twice. Even then, when they do not repent and take heed, whenever a Sura is revealed, they look at each other as if to ask, "Is anyone looking at us?" And then they turn away. Indeed, God has turned their hearts away from the truth, for they cannot discern the law of the heavens. To you has come an apostle from among you. Any sorrow that befalls you weighs upon him. He is eager for your happiness, full of concern for the faithful, compassionate and kind. So if they turn away, say to them, "God is sufficient for me. There is no God but he. I depend on him alone and the glories of the throne." All right, let me see how long this next one is before we get into it. This might be a shorter one because it's the story of Jonah. All right, I'm going to burn through this next one. It's not as green as the others because it's the story of Jonah. I don't know which Jonah is and compared to the Bible. Is he the guy who got eaten by a whale? Who knows? Anyway, there's still, again, you can't get past that first part without mentioning some unbelievers, right? Gotta do it. Yet the unbelievers say, "He is a clear sorcerer." But those who deny the truth will receive boiling water to drink and grievous punishment, for they disbelieved. As for those who do not hope to meet us after death and are content with the life of this world, who are oblivious of our signs, will have hell as their abode for what they have earned. So we punish the sinful people. If I disobey my Lord, I fear the punishment of an awful day. Who is more unjust than he who imputes lies to God and denies his revelations? The sinners will surely not be reprived. Glory is he, and too exalted for what they associate with him. Their faces shall be blackened as though with patches of the night. They are the people of hell, where they will abide forever. The day we shall gather them all together, we shall say to the idolaters, "Take your stand with your compeers you worshipped as the equals of God." We shall then create a rift between them, and the compeers will say, "You do not worship us." Then each will see that what he had done in the past, and they will turn to God, their true Lord, and all the lies they had fabricated will be of no avail to them. Thus the word of your Lord about those who disobey comes true. They do not believe. Many of them follow nothing but illusion, yet illusion cannot replace reality. And feel repentant on seeing the punishment. 62. Remember, there is neither fear nor regret for the friends of God, those who believe and obey God. There is no changing the words of God. That will be the great triumph. Okay? Now again, as I said in the beginning of the video, when you say that there's people out there that you can reform Islam, come to some sort of different conclusion that Islam has already come to and that jihadists have in their mind, remember, you can't change Islam. Impossible. Indeed, there are signs in this for those who listen. They say, God has begotten a son. Immaculate is he and self-sufficient. Whoever is in the heavens and the earth belongs to him. You have no proof for this assertion, you Jesus-worshipping freaks. What do you say things of God you do not know? Say, those who fabricate lies about God will never succeed. It's talking directly to Christians. Let them profit by the world while they may. If in the end they will come back to us, then we shall make them taste severe punishment for having denied the truth. 73. Even then they denied him, so we saved him and those with him in the ark and established them in the land and drowned those who denied our signs. So think of the fate of those who were warned and took no heed. Afterwards we sent many messengers who brought clear proofs to the people, but they were not prepared to believe. And do not be one of those who deny the signs of God, or you will be among the losers. Even though all the signs came to them, not till they faced the grievous punishment. But I worship God who makes you die, and as I commanded to be a believer. Okay. Next time, we're going to go to number 11, HUD. This one was 9 and 10. Or is it HUD? And that one has, again, as with everything, a smattering of green throughout the whole thing. I'm going to cut this video off here. I'm not going to talk too much, as I sometimes do at the end of these, but just to say, you don't have to watch the rest of these videos. It's just going to be more of the same. It's going to seem like I'm repeating myself because the Quran does that. It just keeps going. It's just hate speech after hate speech after hate speech after hate speech. It really works on your brain. It hurts my soul to read that shit. I mean, I feel fucked up every time I do. I feel like I'm one of the few people on this planet that truly understands Islam. I did grow up in the Middle East. Like I said, almost all my friends were Muslim, if not 95% of them, throughout the whole time I was there, which was more than a decade. I watched them grow up. I watched them change. I watched them go from normal kids to either Islamic extremists or what's considered a moderate Muslim who doesn't care but still agrees with the tenets of Islam and will be happy if Christians die, even though they're hanging out with me, drinking a beer, smoking some hash, and fucking some white chick. That doesn't matter. That's not, because all that is them dominating non-Muslims. When they fuck a white girl or a black girl, anybody not Muslim, it's not interfaith mingling that they're doing. They're literally fucking the other religion, hopefully maybe even making a kid, and then that kid has to be Muslim. I'm going to say this one thing. This is just knowledge of what happens. All right? There's a large group of them over here that do have money. They do come to the United States and England to go to college. And many of the times while they're here away from their families and their communities, they become very liberal. They hang out, they do drugs, they have nice cars, especially if they come from one of the richer families. They will party down and be pretty chill people. One of you females is going to latch on to this, thinking that you're going to live a cushy life and that this dude's actually pretty cool. He's not like that. Everybody was wrong. Everybody's racist. Fuck them. You're going to marry him. And you will not have to work ever again. Unless you consider work being raped and popping out kid after kid, because what happens is when you go back home to his family, you actually don't have rights. Even if you're an American, American influence does not affect things that actually happen in the Middle East. There's politics involved. There's certain things they can and cannot do, and America's not going to go to war for your one ass. When you get over there, he has the right to take your passport. He is your sponsor in that country. You will either convert to Islam or not based upon your relationship, but your kids will be Muslim. There is not going to be a debate on that. His family is going to be more religious than he is. He will visibly change in front of them. And while in his community, the moment you guys make it back over there and you're in his pocket, which you will be in his pocket. Your rights are out the fucking window at that point. And I've seen it. I've known sheikhs. I've known sheikhs who married American women and have great big houses and have to pop out 12 kids because he just rapes or fucks them, or it doesn't really matter. doesn't even respect his wife anymore. Might take another wife, a younger, hotter wife, when her vagina's all used up. And there's nothing you could do about it. Even if you fight him, even if you say, I want to divorce you, you can't divorce him unless he wants a divorce. You can get beaten and stay in his home and be abused from now to the day you die. And since he has your passport and any documentation that you could use to either enter the American embassy or even travel the American embassy, because you're not allowed to travel without a man in many cases, you will become a prisoner. And he does not give two shits about it. As a matter of fact, everything he's doing to you will be accepted by the community because he has dominated you for Islam, took one of our producers away of children and brought them over his side to produce the seed of Islam, thusly a form of jihad that is totally acceptable amongst all Muslim communities, no matter where they reside. It's just in the Middle East, though, they could literally take away all your rights. The other places you might have a shot of getting away, but once you get over there, good luck. Good luck. I wouldn't do it. It's kind of stupid. So the ones you meet, that's them partying down when they're not with other people. Kind of like the Amish, when they're allowed that 1 year to just go off and do whatever and then come back to the faith. That's not that. It's not acceptable. They're supposed to still be good Muslims. But, you know, what you see, what you don't see, you don't see. And this has happened to people that I know and whatnot. And if you ever worked as a contractor in the oil industry and in Saudi Arabia especially, you know that the moment the plane takes off from Saudi ground space, enters airspace, the female who's all done up will go to the bathroom, come out in a fucking tank top and miniskirt, and the guy's gonna start downing Jack Daniels. While if you saw that same couple in Saudi Arabia and they saw anything that you do was against Islam, they would tell the local authorities, and then you would either be deported or they would find a way to hurt you. That same two people, the moment they get into the air, out the window. They don't have to anymore. And that's hypocrisy, that's life, and there's nothing you could do about it. So be warned, there is no such thing as a moderate Muslim. It does not exist. The only moderate Muslims that do exist are ones that are shitty Muslims. This is Revolution Now. I'm Rudolph. As always, have a good one. I'm Rudolph. This is just a tip. Don't buy a new vehicle. It seems easy enough to say, and some people, a lot of you already know this, but for those of you who are young who might not know the difference between a brand new vehicle and one with 30,000 miles on it, there is no difference other than about a 30 to 40% difference in price upwards if you decide to buy a vehicle with very low mileage because it is brand new and has only been driven around in test runs on the dealership lot. But there are other vehicles there that have been used as fleet vehicles, leases, that have been well maintained, kept with all the regular checks, that have very low mileage on them, and you already get that 20 to 30% discount off of the price when you buy it. There really is no reason other than some sort of egotistical one where you can impress people by your very new vehicle, and many people don't know the difference because they don't change that much between year and year unless there's a total body overhaul. That might catch a few eyes briefly. I mean, I remember when the Mustang changed twice so far, where there's been quite a difference. When in 05, I think it went from that longer body type that kind of looked like a Camaro into what was more retro look, and that was pretty cool to see. But when you see it, when other people see your brand new vehicle, the only thing that goes through their mind is, that's the new one. We don't even see the driver. You inside the vehicle really doesn't matter all much. They just see the new vehicle and go, oh, maybe I could have one of those. You're not really doing any sort of thing with your extra 30 to 40% markup on your vehicle that's a benefit to you that anybody really gives a shit about. So, cheapest thing to possibly do, go to a police auction, spend a few $100s, run that car into the ground for 2 to 3 years. You will save the most amount of money, but if you still want a technically brand new vehicle that has very low mileage, has been well serviced, go to the dealership and find one that has 20 to 30,000 miles on it, the type of vehicle that you want, and you will have that 30 to 40% discount right off the bat versus a brand new vehicle, which is one of the stupidest things you can buy, because the only thing you are paying for is about 10,000 miles less driving on the vehicle, but no actual real changes, because vehicles last a really long time these days, especially if you keep up with the servicing. I'm Rudolph. This has been Revolution Now. Just a tip. Have a good one.